North Carolina Central may have came out victorious, but everybody walked away from the Orange Blossom Classic wondering what is Alabama State doing with their quarterback situation. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, Sam Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum, and former TSU Herald sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast, and with zero sugar and in a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use the code LOCKEDONCFB to get 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th and cannot be used with other promotions. So go to 5hourenergy.com today. Unfortunately, North Carolina Central and the way that they exploited and neutralized Alabama State's linebackers wraps up today's show instead of opening it because the drought is over. Like, let's just be very clear. The drought is over, and I was not going to wait until segment 3 to talk about that. So I had to jam that into segment 2. And the biggest takeaway from the Orange Blossom Classic was Alabama State's quarterback situation and how, in my opinion, this is an all-around offensive failure, and it's the reason that Alabama State is 0-1 going into week 2. However, one thing I will not do is completely shun the Eagles, because the best player on the field was wearing a North Carolina Central Eagle helmet, right? So let's real quick give our player of the game. That's one thing I will not do is have his shine wait until segment 3, just because there's a bigger story and there's a huge drought that was ended. But look, you have Jamari Taylor, 24 carries, 128 rushing yards, and then he also had 3 total touchdowns. 2 of those were on the ground. One was really, I think, the closer of the game. To be honest, I think that was the one that really put it out of reach, in my opinion. I thought it was over after that. But yeah, he had a receiving touchdown. That was the one that was the closer, in my opinion. We'll get back to Taylor in segment 3, but really, even then, it's about the offensive line and about Matt Leone's scheme and how those things work to neutralize Alabama State's linebackers. But you had to give some love to the best player on the field. The best player on the field at the Orange Blossom Classic was Jamari Taylor, running back for North Carolina Central. One more time, let me flash this up here for you so we can get a stat line before we get to everything else. 24 carries, 128 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 through the air. We'll be back to discuss Mr. Taylor at the end of the show. However, the biggest takeaway from the Orange Blossom Classic was clearly, what is Alabama State doing with their quarterback situation? And it's disappointing because, first off, Andrew Body seemed to have a hand injury coming off the field at the end of week 1. So we'll see if this is a moot point. This may not even be something that we need to discuss. It could clearly be Jonah O'Brien's team moving forward if Body's hand injury is something that keeps him out for an extended period of time, or even keeps him out for another game, to be honest. But right now, it's clear what they're doing. But the question of why they're doing it is the real thing we're trying to figure out. Why is Alabama State running a 2-quarterback system? I haven't figured it out. When I watched the game, first off, I was pretty surprised to see them come out with 2 quarterbacks at the same time on the field. I thought that was a cool little trickeration, but it eventually had to stop. You couldn't run 2 quarterbacks on the field every single play, and it only went about 2 plays. Then Jonah O'Brien stood in. I said, what? When Jonah O'Brien stood in, I was confused because I know that I covered this quarterback controversy. I didn't think it was a controversy. I know I covered this quarterback battle, but everybody battles for their spots. Like that just happens. But most times you know who it's going to be. Not this time. And it makes me wonder why. Because in watching that game, I saw absolutely nothing that said that Jonah O'Brien should be the starting quarterback ahead of Andrew Body. And though they both may have came onto the field at the same time to start the game, Jonah O'Brien was clearly quarterback one entering week one. That was clear, right? But one thing that was clear leaving week one is that Andrew Body is the best quarterback on that team. That offensive line is not great. At least it wasn't on Monday or Sunday. At least it wasn't then. And when you have an offensive line that's poor, Andrew Body was the best weapon that they had because Andrew Body was able to take situations and make something out of nothing. The reason that Andrew Body was the best quarterback on this team and shows to be the best quarterback on this team is because when things break down, he can take over. I don't see that in Jonah O'Brien. Things change from week 1 to week 2 to week 7, but I don't think that's changing. If things break down, Jonah O'Brien, to me, is not going to go make something out of nothing. Not with his legs. Maybe if he didn't show much escapability either to extend the play to make something out of nothing with his arm. And here, the arm thing is what really gets me. If you watch the usage of Body and O'Brien, you would say it's a throwing quarterback versus a running quarterback. And the fact that I saw that made me question every single thing that I saw when he was at Texas Southern. Because when I saw Body at Texas Southern, I thought he was a player who could throw the football. So for him to be used as somebody who we want to keep you from throwing the ball, I was like, did I see things wrong? This was a complete offensive failure. Somebody posed the question, if Andrew Body was in the game this whole time, would Alabama State have won? I think that's a serious question that we'll never know the answer to. I don't know. I don't know. I think they have a better performance. Whether they win or not, they have a better performance on the field because it was clear as new glass who the best quarterback was, and that's Andrew Body. They didn't allow him to really showcase his arm. And it also, to me, I don't know if these were design runs. I don't know if these were instructions, but I didn't see as patient of a thrower in Body either. When I was watching Andrew Body play, I didn't see a guy who really wanted to go through progressions. I saw a guy who looked at one receiver, and when it wasn't there, he took off. Was that because of lack of trust in the offensive line? Was that because of instruction from the head coach, because of the instruction from the offensive coordinator? Like, are there certain things that he's being told that made him want to do that? Because that's not what I used to see. That may have been the most confusing thing. And in a way, it's like self-fulfilling prophecies. Oh, Body can't throw, or he's not patient as a thrower. You could be giving him instructions, say, okay, you don't see it, go. He's just using his legs. That's not the Andrew Body that we have seen for, I don't know, he's played a full season and a change in some other seasons, so 17, 18 games, right? Like somewhere around there. That's not the Andrew Body that I've known. That was the most confusing part, but that was an offensive failure. If Body is okay, he is clearly the best quarterback on his team. I don't understand why he wasn't in the game to begin with. I don't understand why he wasn't given the opportunity to really throw the ball, unless that was on him, unless he was making these decisions. But to me, it seemed like a lot of called runs. You look at when there was two quarterbacks in there. I sent a couple text messages. This is not a two quarterback system. I sent that a couple of times. But as the time went on, it was. To me, it felt like Jonah O'Brien was the starter at the beginning. They brought in two quarterbacks to have trickeration and have eye candy. But Body, look at him. He caught a pass. He ran the ball and he handed off. At no point did he even try to throw. At no point did he show the illusion that he was going to throw. I think that's part of what made it so infuriating, but also impressive, is that I never really felt like Body was going to throw the ball. But I still felt like he had the most effective drives when he was in at quarterback. But it was infuriating because it became predictable. And then you look at the offensive line. That O-line was not good. That was an offensive failure right there. They had a couple of drives where they really ran the ball well. That was surprising based on how the game was going. They had a couple of drives where they ran the ball really well with their running back. Body always ran the ball well. But like with their running back, it was like, oh, okay. But the offensive line failed. It did. The offensive line was not good. I thought that Central's defensive line did a good job. I thought that Central's defensive coordinator did a good job with blitzing players. Talking about the linebacker, I thought that he did a really good job. I can't remember what drive that was or what quarter it was, but he had one where he blitzed through and blew it all the way up. Man, I think that Central's a really good team. I don't want the first segment of me talking about the questions around Alabama State to make you think that I don't believe in Central, or that believe that this is more on Alabama State's ineptitude than Central's ability. No, I think that North Carolina Central is a phenomenal team. I walked away thoroughly impressed with them on both sides of the ball. I just also think that Andrew Body should have been the starting quarterback in that combined, I think that Jonah O'Brien didn't even show me the passing prowess that would tell me, yeah, Body can't throw the ball with him. No, Jonah O'Brien didn't throw the ball well. So this whole idea that you have a passing quarterback and a running quarterback, it's not supported by the passing quarterback's performance. So now you have Andrew Body as the running guy. To me, he should be the guy. The fact that Andrew Body was not the starting quarterback to start this game and really through the duration of this game, combined with the fact that the offensive line really struggled to run block or pass block, this was a complete offensive failure, and it is the biggest reason that Alabama State is 0-1 going into week 2. However, one team that's not 0-1 is this team behind me, Texas Southern. You know what it is. The drought is over. They knocked off PV. The PV Panthers can go ahead and stay in their den. You can go ahead and move on. See you next year. We ain't worried about you no more. We going on to the Chris Dishman era. And with that being said, let's continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Listen, and hear me good. I know what it's like to be exhausted, but still have to get things done. Nobody ever wants to be in that situation. It sucks, right? But the only thing that makes it better, in my opinion, is a nice little shot of 5 Hour Energy. Doesn't matter if you're on the early morning, I got to wake up and get to it immediately. Doesn't matter if you're on the after lunch when you got to stay active after having a nice hearty meal. That's what they call it, right? Nice hearty meal. Or if you're late night and you got to stay up to do a night shift, you got to stay up to do a preparation for something, you got to stay up to study. 5 Hour Energy is here for all of those things. So they have a multitude of flavors, including grape, watermelon, tropical burst, berry, all of those things. But in order to find them, got to go to 5hourenergy.com. That's number 5. HoureEnergy.com. Use the code LOCKEDONCFB and you get 20% off your order. It's valid until September 30th, but cannot be combined with any other promotions. The code is not good with subscription orders either. Just go to 5hourenergy.com today and get you some of that. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin, it's his time. The season is rolling. The same way I'm excited about the season rolling here, he is too, because this is literally his bread and butter. He hosts Locked On College Football. You can break down the biggest, or he can break down the biggest games of the week, whether that's LSU versus USC, whether that's Clemson versus Georgia, whether that's Oregon having a real close game or Colorado having a really close game. Both of those teams against FCS opponents. So go ahead and check out Spencer McLaughlin on Locked On College Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Yard Talk. Shout out number 1. This is the time when you turn down your volume. Outfit change, man. Woo! Let's go, man. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. TS. You. I thought you knew. Oh, I want to finish with this is a family show. But I hope that all my TSU alum out there are finishing that out because we did it. The drought is over. You see the shirt? Did you see the shirt I had on? Did you see the shirt that I had on? For everybody, I'm gonna stand up again in case you didn't read it. Maybe you just thought I was standing up. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a PV fan and you're a little illiterate. Y'all ain't get the best education. Y'all see it? Beat PV. I ain't been in school in 4 years. That should tell you right now how old this shirt is, okay? And we're going to get to some of the analysis. We're going to get to that. I promise. But for right now, let me have my moment. For right now, Texas Southern just ended a drought. We don't need to talk about how long it was because it's a new streak now. Like, who cares? Y'all focused on yesterday. I'm focused on today. I'm trying to hop on the grill. I'm focused on right now, today. But, like, we got a 1-game winning streak against Prairie View A&M. All right. And I feel like Kamala, man. We did it, Joe. That's how I feel. We did it, Joe. Because this shirt right here used to give me nightmares. This Beat PV shirt used to give me nightmares because every single year I'd see somebody wear it, and I never had confidence we were going to do it. I didn't. I don't know if I fully believe this year, to be honest. I don't know. First year head coach, first game of the year, first head coaching game of his career, period. I don't know how I felt. But I can tell you that going all the way until a minute and a half left in the game, I didn't breathe. I didn't allow myself to get comfortable with the lead until the clock was ticking down. Like that's really how I felt, because I've seen this story before, but I haven't seen this story before. I went to Texas Southern in 2016. It's 2024. This is my first time ever seeing this beat PV. Moments like this get somebody emotional. So it gets you emotional, right? But you didn't. Oh, but I did used to put it. I did used to love seeing these shirts during basketball season because we would regularly beat PV then. Let's just get that out the way. They ain't just running everything, just football. But this isn't a braggadocious show. Thank you for allowing me to have my braggadocious moment. Yard Talk, if you're still listening, you can turn up the sound. I'm not going to yell anymore, I promise. But now let's get into the analyticals. Let's get into the analysis of all of this. The Chris Dishman era started with a bang. I understand that he said he has bigger goals than beating PV, but that was the first goal. And I am of those people who are like, hey, you got to beat PV. You do that, we all right. And I kind of feel like if the season doesn't crash and burn, I'm okay. Like, as long as you don't just go on and lose the rest of your games, or like just show competency. And I think they showed the trace this week that it expresses they'll be a competent team. I don't think that PV is terrible. I don't think that PV is some terrible team because they controlled this game. And if PV isn't terrible, that bodes well for Texas Southern, because TSU controlled this game really from start to finish. Like I said, it started off with a bang, and you got to give this game, because I said the OBC MVP went to a running back. The same thing can be said about the LBC. And no, I'm not talking about Long Beach. No, I'm not talking about the 213. I'm talking about the Labor Day Classic. And I also got my letters mixed up because that's not LBC. That's LDC. That's okay. But that being said, the Labor Day Classic, to me, the MVP was clearly Danny Green Jr. It was clearly the running back. That was the lead guy in this game. That was the player that made the engine go. And the most impressive part is that he's a true freshman. This was his first game in college ever. He was in high school just a couple of months ago. He was in high school. And now today, he's running all up and down Prairie View A&M's home field. Feels good. 2 touchdowns, collegiate debut, 15 carries, 81 yards. That's 6 and like really just rounded up to that, or rounded down to that. Yards per carry. Green was just a part of the machine, but he was the biggest part. He had about half of Texas Southern's rushing yards, right? But then you also have to look at KJ Cooper, who I didn't expect to start. I had 2 coaches on this game or on this show who talked to me about their quarterbacks that didn't start. That's not lost on me. Also wasn't a lot of heavy personnel. Also not lost on me. The gamemanship is strong in these 2. Something about them Oilers, huh? The gamesmanship is strong in these 2. But I also didn't ask the question of who is your quarterback. I just asked as if that guy was the quarterback. I take that on me. Got to be more specific. But that being said, I thought KJ Cooper was really good. He got the start over Jace Wilson, and I thought that Cooper made all the plays he needed to make. And he avoided mistakes after the first one. I think he had a fumble on the first drive, but we'll get to that in a second. I think that was him. All the good things that happened, I forgot who made that mistake. But excuse me. I'm fine. The excitement's getting to me, I guess. But Cooper came out, and I'm sure the battle was close, but he never looked back. Made all the plays, whether that was a deep shot to Trenton Leary for a touchdown, whether that was a quarterback run. I think he had like a 30-yard run, maybe right before that. He made all of the plays that he needed to. So I like what I saw from KJ Cooper. I really did enjoy what I saw from that player at the quarterback position. I really enjoyed what I saw from the offensive line. I really enjoyed what I saw from the running back, right? Like, I don't know if the quarterback, or excuse me, the wide receivers stood out either way, but that running game, that offensive line, that quarterback did. Um, it feels good. It's a good time to be a Tiger, yo. And when I say that the era started off with a bang, not really, because like I said, there was a fumble earlier in the first drive that put PV in absolute scoring position, not just good field position, but scoring position. And TSU bowled up. And I think that was kind of a sign of what we saw from them the rest of the day. No matter what was put in front of them, they knew how to bow up. And matter of fact, a lot of times they didn't have to. PV drove down the field two more times. The first time they were just gifted the ball there. They didn't do anything with it. PV didn't do anything with that ball when they got it. Like, they drove down 2 times and got field goals both times. They ended up getting 9 points. Didn't matter if it was Lucas Coley. Didn't matter if it was Cameron Peters. Didn't matter who the quarterback was in that purple. TSU really did a great job of diffusing any offensive momentum. Coley left after the first half. I don't think it was an injury. I think it was just the fact that they weren't doing too much. So they wanted to go with a different quarterback. They'll have to figure that out in weeks 2, 3, and going forward. I think that you're going to see that battle now heat up. Peter should get the first start in week 2. But, I mean, it's not like either one did a lot. So I don't know if the leash is long. But I would say I thought Peters did a little bit more. A little bit more. It wasn't too much, but it was a little bit more. But, yeah, like, it didn't matter who the quarterback was. They were playing tight coverage. They kept targeting Savage. I didn't think that I would like to see his target to catch ratio. I don't feel like it was above 50. I think he probably missed. I won't say missed. I feel like TSU played good coverage and forced incompletions on half, or maybe slightly less than half of the targets towards Shamar Savage. I want to call him Bridges so bad. Shamar Bridges. Who is Shamar Bridges? Shamar Bridges. Fort Valley stand up. But yeah, PV didn't run the ball well. Jacob Williams in that front 7 was active, whether I was getting sacks, whether I was getting tackles for a loss. TSU really did play the game that they needed to. Defensively, offensively, they were dominant within the trenches, and that's what led to them winning the game. They didn't have a lot of penalties, 2 for 25. That's extremely disciplined. I understand that it's only one game. I understand that Texas Southern doesn't have the best track record, but TSU hasn't beat PV in a while, and it's given me a little bit of excitement. But I can temper myself. I can calm down. But when I look at the fact that they ran the ball so effectively against a team in Prairie View A&M who looked at the defensive line as one of, if not their strongest units on the squad, and then I'm looking at Chris Dishman, who in that first game of his head coaching career, his team only had 2 penalties for 25 yards, controlling the trenches and extremely disciplined. I think that there's something to work with here, and that's not me being biased. I think that TSU can be a competitive team if they can sustain those 2 things, plus KJ Cooper at the quarterback position, making all the plays as he did in the Labor Day Classic. Whew, I'm excited. But let's get into the Orange Blossom. It's a classic weekend. It's a classic show, right? We having wardrobe changes and everything. This is a classic show. This is the Locked On HBCU Classic, and we'll continue as we keep. I switched up my outro and messed it up. But anyway, we still classic with it. Let's just push forward with Locked On HBCU like normal. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate College Football, and it's easily the best game on the market. It's the only game that I like to play on my phone because it allows me to extend my game until no service. For example, I got to catch a flight very soon. Boom, open it up. Let's see. Do I want to recruit players? Do I want to hire some coaching staff? Do I want to oversee training camp, handling the scholarships? Click, click, click. Yeah, there we go. And I can call offensive plays. It's beautiful. It gives me everything that I could possibly want all in this phone, and I don't need Wi-Fi. So even when all my Wi-Fi is out, if I'm on the plane, I'm up in the air, I can still play this game. It's beautiful. So it's up to you, right? All you have to do is go to the App Store, download Ultimate College Football, or you can download it at ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or you can look it up in the App Store. If you use the code LOCKEDONCFB in all caps inside the game store, you'll get a free boost to your program. Go ahead and download the game today. As wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day, making all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Y'all in the live chat with it, thank you. I appreciate y'all. I know we're changing. I said we're going to do it at 6:30, but it's a holiday, so I had to change it up to 11 a.m. Central Time. So for those who are still with me, I really do appreciate it. For those who haven't been able to catch it live, next week we will be here at 6:30 Central. We're going to start doing 6:30 Central times every Monday and Friday. Okay. So you can really pencil that in. You can write it in pen. This was just a holiday. So we're a little bit different. For those who stuck it out and seen the tweet and saw this, I appreciate you for checking it out with me, man. This is a classic show. It's the Locked on HBCU Classic. Ain't no stumbling this time. North Carolina Central walked away with a victory in the Orange Blossom Classic, primarily because I felt they had a wonderful job neutralizing linebackers, both in the run game and in the pass game. Coach Robinson came on the show and he sung the praises of DeMarcus Cunningham and Rico Dozier. And I don't think that it was undeserving. I think that those guys are still dogs. I still think that they're fantastic players. But one thing that North Carolina Central did amazing is they either took them out the game or they put them in the game. In the passing game, they put them there. They said, hey, we're going to beat your linebackers, and that's how we're going to have early offensive success through the air. They had a slow part where things just kind of weren't clicking for the offense, but that's okay. I think they'll get that together. Then you look in the running game, they said, all right, we're going to take you out by having our big offensive linemen continuously get to you. And I think that was off. Alabama State's defensive line was weak. And I think that may have been the most hurtful aspect of that defense. You look at both sides. Alabama State's offensive and defensive line was not good. They weren't good. And that was the Achilles heel of both sides of the ball. I can talk about Andrew Body not being in the game, but they still didn't block well, right? So, like, I still don't think that their offense would have been extremely better. I think it would have been better, but not extremely better. But let's focus on Central's offense because their offensive line was beating Alabama State's defensive line so badly and so quickly. They were able to get to the second level. And that's important because our player of the game, Jamari Taylor, 24 carries, 128 yards, 3 total touchdowns, 1 of which was through the air, 2 of which were on the ground. He scored all of the offensive touchdowns when it came to North Carolina Central. And he was, quite frankly, just the best player on the field. I don't care what side of the ball you're talking about. Jamari Taylor was the best player on the field at the Orange Blossom Classic. And the reason that was the case is because he had a bunch of one-on-ones that led to more one-on-ones. In other words, the first person never tackled him. I hate that cliche. But I can't think of any other way to describe it because he had a bunch of one-on-ones, sometimes in the backfield, sometimes a couple of yards past the line of scrimmage, and he always showed his elusiveness, he always showed his shiftiness, and he always got to the second person. There was a point in the game where James Burgess seemed like he was making all of the tackles, and he's the cornerback. You never want that to be the case. He wasn't coming on blitzes. It was just the fact that Taylor kept slipping Alabama State players. Tackling. That's frustrating. Things as simple as tackling not going right can really make or break a team. And you got to give credit to Jamari Taylor. Did Alabama State seem like they had the best for him? No. But I also thought that Taylor was shifty. I thought that he was quick. I thought he was extremely quick. He put his foot into the ground. I thought that Taylor showcased everything you would want from a starting running back. When I had Walker Harris come on the show and he said, I think we have the best running back, I saw that in the Orange Blossom Classic. 24 carries, 128 yards, over 5 a pop. This is a player who was extremely consistent, and he did 2 things consistently. One, he had great vision to find the hole. And then secondly, didn't matter who was in front of him. There was multiple times it was defensive linemen. There was multiple times it was defensive backs. He continuously made them miss, even when it seemed like they should have got a tackle. He made them miss. Sometimes it was 50-50, sometimes it was 70-30 on the defender side. Made them miss. And that gets to what I'm talking about with the linebackers. Like, how did they exploit they took them out the game because they put linemen on them. They kept getting to the second level. They kept pulling guys. And I think that led to them easily getting to the second level too. So now when you got these big linemen on these, they're a little bit smaller linebackers, it's harder for them to shed those blocks. And when it's harder for them to shed those blocks, well, now the linemen who are free had to make a tackle. They couldn't do it. Now the defensive backs who are coming down from safety, the safety position, or maybe even the nickel back, they had to make it, and Lord, pray for them. They couldn't make it. This was a fantastic job by Matt Leone, and it was a fantastic job by Jamari Taylor. And then on the other side of it, in the passing game, once again, Leone, crossing routes. There was multiple times in the beginning of the game. The best offense came when you had to get crossing routes and said, all right, Cunningham, pick one. They kept talking about it on the broadcast. Pick one, pick one, pick one. And it don't matter who you pick, we're going to throw it to the other guy. And a lot of times he was lost. He wasn't decisive in that aspect. He was not decisive in picking one. He kind of hesitated. You saw him like, which one do I get? And then he committed, but by that time it was too late. And I thought that was a great job on the offense. In the running game, because they were good tacklers. When you saw the linebacker get to the running back, they didn't miss. I think that Dozier and Cunningham are going to be a good linebacker to a duo, but it's not this game. Those big linemen got up on them. They couldn't do anything with them. So it became less of a factor in the running game, their strongest aspect. Then in the passing game, you kept saying, all right, one guy, cover these two. And unless you're Mr. Fantastic, that's not possible. This is a fantastic job. This was a fantastic job. You put them in play in the passing game where they had to make a decision where they're wrong no matter what. And in the running game, you took them out of the equation by pulling your offensive lineman and sliding your offensive line that way. Slide them that way, pull guys over here, boom, they get to the offensive, or they get to the linebackers. They sealed off a hole. Now it's on Jamari Taylor to make somebody miss, and we know that he did. I'm going to record another episode today. I'm recording this real early, right? Like this is, what time is it right now? It's 8:59. So I'm going to drop this at 11. I'm going to record another one today, but it's going to be very short because it's Labor Day. I want to enjoy time with my family. I can't record one tomorrow morning. So, we're going to do a very short episode today. Kind of like how if you follow any other Locked On shows, it'll be a weekend, how they do weekend extra shows. That's how we're going to be today. It's going to be a short one. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Remember that our normal shows drop at 7 a.m. Tuesday through Thursday. And then Monday and Friday, we're going to have 6:30 a.m. 6:30 p.m. Okay. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Yard Talk, this is your second shout out. It's time to go hop on that grill, man. Time to go hop on that grill. My hair be going everywhere, but it's time to do that. Take care. Stay blessed. Eat good. Stay safe. Peace.